In the summer of 2025, a controversial rock band known as Chaos Reign announced their most provocative performance yet. The group, famous for pushing boundaries with their anti-establishment themes, revealed plans for a live show in Austin, Texas that would feature the public burning of religious texts as a statement on artistic freedom. The announcement sent shockwaves through social media, dividing public opinion instantly. Within hours, the event became a flashpoint for debates about freedom of expression versus respect for religious beliefs. Thousands pledged to attend, while thousands more organized protests. News outlets scrambled to cover the story as it went viral across platforms. The venue, a converted warehouse with a capacity of 3,000, sold out in minutes. Subscribe now to witness what happens when art meets controversy in the most unexpected way. The band's lead vocalist, known only as Raven, defended their artistic choice in a heated press conference. "We're not attacking anyone's faith. We're making a statement about how society uses symbols to control narratives," he declared to a room full of journalists and cameras. His words only intensified the controversy. Religious communities across Texas began organizing peaceful demonstrations outside the venue. Faith leaders from various denominations united in their opposition, planning to form a human chain around the building on the night of the performance. The city council held emergency meetings to discuss whether they could legally prevent the event. Security companies refused to work the show. Insurance providers withdrew coverage. Yet the band remained defiant, hiring independent security and promising the performance would proceed as planned. The date was set for September 12, 2025, and the entire nation watched as the countdown began. As September arrived, tensions in Austin reached a fever pitch. The warehouse venue became ground zero for a cultural battle that transcended music. Workers reinforced barriers around the building while protesters set up camps across the street, holding vigils that lasted through the night. The atmosphere felt electric with anticipation and dread. Chaos Reign's management team worked around the clock to ensure the show would happen. They installed advanced lighting systems, massive speakers, and at the center of the stage, a metal brazier designed to hold the ceremonial burning. Technical rehearsals ran late into the night, with pyrotechnics experts testing fire safety protocols repeatedly. Local news stations positioned cameras on nearby rooftops. Reporters from international media outlets flew in to cover the event. Social media influencers live-streamed the growing crowds, their follower counts skyrocketing with each update. The story dominated headlines, overshadowing political news and entertainment gossip alike. Inside the venue, the band's crew painted controversial imagery on the walls. Lyrics from their most provocative songs covered the ceiling. The stage design resembled a courtroom, with the brazier positioned like a witness stand. Every detail was calculated for maximum visual impact and media coverage. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates on this unfolding story. The band members themselves retreated to an undisclosed location for final rehearsals. They practiced their set list obsessively, knowing that every moment would be scrutinized. Raven wrote additional verses specifically for this performance, incorporating recent headlines and public reactions into the lyrics. The stakes had never been higher for their career. City officials deployed additional police units to manage the expected crowds. Emergency medical teams positioned ambulances on standby. Mental health counselors volunteered to be present, anticipating the emotional intensity of the night. Everyone sensed that September 12th would be a date no one would forget. The day arrived under clear September skies. By noon, thousands of people had already assembled outside the warehouse. Protesters held signs with messages ranging from prayerful pleas to angry condemnations. Supporters of the band arrived with their own banners celebrating artistic freedom and rebellion against censorship. The two groups faced each other across police barricades. Television helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting aerial footage of the massive crowds. The scene looked like a political rally and a concert festival merged into one chaotic gathering. Food trucks positioned themselves blocks away, capitalizing on the crowds. Street vendors sold T-shirts representing both sides of the controversy. As afternoon turned to evening, ticket holders began forming lines at the entrance gates. Security personnel checked bags meticulously, confiscating anything that could be thrown or used as a weapon. Metal detectors beeped constantly as thousands shuffled through the checkpoints. The atmosphere inside felt thick with anticipation and nervous energy. Outside, the protest groups began singing hymns and playing acoustic guitars. Their peaceful melodies contrasted sharply with the heavy metal music blasting from the venue's sound system during sound checks. The juxtaposition created a surreal soundscape that captured the cultural divide on full display. Media personalities conducted live interviews with attendees from both sides. A young concertgoer explained, "This isn't about religion for me. It's about not letting anyone tell artists what they can or can't express." Meanwhile, a faith leader stated calmly, "We're here to show that love and respect don't require censorship, just mutual understanding." As 8 p.m. approached, the sun began setting over Austin, casting long shadows across the assembled crowds. Police maintained a visible but non-confrontational presence. Everyone could feel the weight of the moment. Whatever happened next would ripple far beyond this single night in Texas. The house lights dimmed at exactly 8:15 p.m. A roar erupted from the 3,000 people packed inside the warehouse. Strobe lights flashed in rhythmic patterns as the opening band took the stage for a brief warm-up set. The energy felt explosive, contained only by the building's walls. Outside, protesters intensified their singing, trying to be heard over the amplified music. At 9 p.m., Chaos Rain emerged onto the stage to deafening applause and screams. Raven wore all black with silver chains, his appearance calculated to match the dark aesthetic of their performance. The bass dropped with earth-shaking power as they launched into their first song. The crowd moved as one massive organism, jumping and pushing in waves. Camera operators positioned throughout the venue captured every angle. The band's livestream attracted over 500,000 concurrent viewers globally within the first 10 minutes. Comments flooded the chat at impossible speeds, representing every possible opinion and emotion. The internet had its eyes locked on this moment. Stay with us as the tension builds toward the moment that will shock everyone. 3 songs into the set, Raven addressed the audience directly. "Tonight, we're not just playing music. We're making a statement that art belongs to the people, not to institutions that want to control what we see, hear, or think." The crowd erupted again, though some attendees shifted uncomfortably at the escalating rhetoric. The band performed with aggressive intensity, their technical skill undeniable despite the controversial context. Guitarists executed complex solos while the drummer maintained relentless rhythms that seemed to match the collective heartbeat of the room. The music itself was genuinely impressive, which made the impending spectacle even more complex. As the set progressed, stagehands wheeled the metal brazier to center stage. The crowd's energy shifted from celebration to anticipation mixed with anxiety. Some attendees near the front began recording on their phones, determined to capture whatever happened next. The moment everyone had been waiting for and dreading was approaching rapidly. At 9:47 p.m., the band paused between songs. The warehouse fell into an unnatural silence as thousands held their breath simultaneously. Raven walked to the brazier, now filled with kindling and positioned under dramatic spotlighting. A crew member approached carrying a leather-bound book that was clearly meant to represent a Bible, though later reports would confirm it was actually a prop. "This isn't about hatred," Raven announced into his microphone, his voice echoing through the space. "This is about freedom from symbols that have been weaponized throughout history." He raised the book above his head as the crowd remained split between cheers and uncomfortable silence. Even some supporters seemed uncertain about crossing this particular line. Outside, protesters sensed the moment approaching. Their songs grew louder, more desperate. Some fell to their knees in prayer. Police officers tightened their formation, preparing for potential chaos. News anchors narrating the event live struggled to maintain professional composure while describing what they were witnessing. Raven lowered the book toward the flames already burning in the brazier. The entire warehouse seemed to hold its collective breath. Cameras zoomed in from every angle. Live stream viewers multiplied to over 2 million. This was the point of no return, the moment that would define everything that came before and after. Then something happened that no one could have predicted or explained. The flames in the brazier simply stopped moving. Not extinguished, not blown out, but frozen in place as if time itself had paused. The fire looked like a photograph, perfectly still with flames reaching upward but not flickering, not dancing, not behaving like fire at all. The physics made no sense. Raven stumbled backward, the book falling from his hands onto the stage floor. The drummer's sticks stopped mid-strike. Every person in that warehouse experienced the same impossible phenomenon, and for approximately 30 seconds that felt like an eternity, absolute silence replaced the chaos. 3,000 people stood paralyzed, watching frozen flames that defied every law of nature they understood. The spell broke as suddenly as it appeared. The flames resumed their natural movement, flickering and dancing as fire should. But something fundamental had shifted in that room. Raven remained frozen at center stage, staring at the brazier with an expression that cameras captured in perfect detail, a mixture of fear, confusion, and something that looked like recognition. The band members exchanged glances, their confident demeanor completely shattered. The bassist set down his instrument and walked off stage without explanation. The guitarist followed moments later. Only Raven and the drummer remained, both seemingly unable to process what they had just witnessed along with everyone else. Someone in the crowd began sobbing. Then another. Within seconds, emotional reactions rippled through the warehouse like waves. Some people fell to their knees. Others rushed toward the exits, desperate to leave. Many simply stood motionless, their minds struggling to reconcile the impossible event they had collectively experienced. Raven picked up the book from where it had fallen, noticing his hands were shaking. He approached the microphone again, but when he tried to speak, no words came. The silence stretched uncomfortably until finally he managed, I don't understand what just happened." His voice, usually so confident and defiant, sounded small and uncertain. "Keep watching to see how this impossible moment changes everything." Outside, protesters had witnessed nothing directly but felt something shift. Those who had been praying reported experiencing an overwhelming sense of peace at exactly 9:47 p.m. News helicopters had been filming the exterior, so they captured nothing unusual, yet their camera operators later described feeling an inexplicable chill despite the warm September night. The live stream chat exploded with theories. Skeptics claimed technical manipulation or mass hallucination. Believers insisted they had witnessed divine intervention. Scientists watching the feed demanded access to the venue to investigate. The debate began immediately, but thousands of in-person witnesses knew what they had seen, even if they couldn't explain it. Security personnel, trained to handle emergencies, found themselves uncertain how to proceed. The venue manager rushed backstage to consult with the band. Police commanders outside received confused reports from officers monitoring interior cameras. Everyone agreed on the basic facts, but no one could offer a rational explanation for frozen flames. The show ended without any further performance. Chaos Reign's management made the call to evacuate the venue safely and orderly. As people filed out into the night, the contrast between their expectations and their experience showed clearly on their faces. This was not the triumphant or outrageous event anyone had anticipated. Social media exploded instantaneously. The hashtag #FrozenFlames trended globally within 15 minutes. Thousands of attendees posted their videos, all showing the same impossible moment from different angles. Frame-by-frame analysis began immediately as amateur and professional investigators tried to find evidence of trickery or technical manipulation. News networks abandoned their scheduled programming to cover the developing story. Scientific experts were brought on air to offer explanations. Physicists discussed plasma behavior and optical illusions. Psychologists explored mass hysteria and suggestion. Religious scholars debated symbolism and interpretation. Everyone had theories, but the videos remained inexplicable. The band members were escorted from the venue through a back entrance, avoiding both protesters and supporters. Raven declined all interview requests, his previous media-friendly persona completely absent. Band representatives issued a brief statement acknowledging that something unexplained and profound had occurred but offering no further comment. Austin police reviewed all available footage over the following hours. Fire investigators examined the brazier and stage area, finding nothing unusual about the equipment or fuel source. Independent video analysts confirmed that none of the footage showed signs of digital manipulation or editing. The evidence was consistent across hundreds of independent sources. By midnight, the story dominated global headlines. International news outlets picked up the coverage. Religious communities celebrated what they interpreted as a clear sign or intervention. Skeptics doubled down on their demands for scientific investigation. The cultural conversation that had begun with a controversial concert had evolved into something far more complex and mysterious. Subscribe to follow the investigations and revelations that continue to unfold. Academic institutions announced plans to study the incident. The venue received requests from researchers across multiple disciplines. The brazier itself was seized as evidence, though evidence of what remained unclear. September 12, 2025, had become a date that would be debated, analyzed, and remembered for reasons no one had anticipated. In the weeks following September 12, the impact of that inexplicable moment continued to reverberate across the globe. Chaos Reign announced an indefinite hiatus from performing and recording. Raven released a personal statement describing how the event had fundamentally changed his understanding of art, expression, and respect. The words carried weight that his previous provocations never had. The band members scattered, each processing the experience privately. The bassist returned to his hometown in Oregon, declining all media requests. The guitarist entered therapy to work through what he described as a complete reframing of reality. The drummer sold his equipment and took a job teaching music to underprivileged children, telling friends he needed to do something meaningful with his hands. Scientific investigations produced no definitive explanations despite months of rigorous analysis. A report from the University of Texas Physics Department acknowledged that all available evidence showed flames behaving in ways that contradicted known principles of combustion and thermodynamics. The researchers examined every frame of video from multiple angles, consulted with experts in plasma physics and optical phenomena, and found no rational explanation. The lead investigator, Dr. Sarah Chen, addressed the media with unusual candor for a scientist. "We've tested every hypothesis. Mass hallucination doesn't explain why cameras captured the same phenomenon. Technical manipulation doesn't match the consistency across hundreds of independent video sources. Weather anomalies can't account for localized effects lasting exactly 30 seconds. We're left with data that challenges our understanding." Additional research teams from MIT, Stanford, and Cambridge University requested access to all materials. They replicated the exact conditions in laboratory settings, same fuel, same brazier design, same atmospheric conditions, yet could not reproduce the frozen flame effect. The controlled experiments only deepened the mystery, proving that standard physics applied everywhere except during those 30 seconds in Austin. The warehouse venue became an unexpected pilgrimage site that transformed the surrounding neighborhood. Despite being closed to the public, people gathered outside daily from dawn until midnight. Some came to pray, others to meditate, many simply to stand in silent contemplation near the place where the impossible had occurred. Local businesses initially worried about disruption but found the visitors respectful and peaceful. A makeshift memorial appeared on the sidewalk outside the venue. Visitors left flowers, candles, handwritten notes, and symbolic objects. The messages ranged from expressions of faith to scientific curiosity to personal stories of transformation. City workers who initially cleared the memorial daily eventually stopped when they realized people immediately rebuilt it, creating an organic shrine that reflected collective wonder. The city council held contentious debates about whether to preserve the building as a historical landmark. Developers wanted to purchase the property for commercial use, offering substantial sums. Historical preservation societies argued that the site represented a significant cultural moment regardless of one's interpretation. Religious groups proposed converting it into an interfaith meditation center. After 3 months of deliberation, the council voted to designate the warehouse as a protected site. The decision acknowledged that September 12, 2025, had created a shared cultural touchstone that transcended typical categories of historical significance. The building would remain sealed but preserved, with a small adjacent visitor center planned to document the event through witness testimonies and verified footage. Raven himself underwent the most visible transformation of anyone involved. Once combative and provocative in every public appearance, he began speaking about the experience in measured, thoughtful terms that revealed genuine introspection. His social media accounts, previously filled with inflammatory posts, went silent for 6 weeks before resuming with philosophical reflections. In his only televised interview, conducted in late October with a respected journalist, Raven appeared almost unrecognizable. Gone were the chains and dark aesthetic. He wore simple clothing and spoke without the performative edge that had defined his public persona. "I went there to make a statement about freedom," he explained, his voice steady but quiet. "What I learned was that some things transcend our attempts to control or explain them." The interviewer pressed him on whether he believed he had witnessed divine intervention. Raven paused for a long moment before responding. "I don't know what to call it. Whether you label it divine intervention, collective consciousness, quantum anomaly, or something science hasn't named yet, the label matters less than what it taught me. I learned humility in a way that years of success and controversy never could have taught me." He described the moment in vivid detail, his hands gesturing unconsciously as he spoke. Time didn't just slow down, it felt like it stopped completely. But more than that, I felt connected to every person in that room. We were all experiencing the same impossibility together, and in that shared experience, all the divisions we'd constructed just evaporated. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, but it changed everything. Stay tuned as we explore how this moment rippled through countless lives. The protesters who had gathered outside that night reported their own profound transformations. Many described the experience as affirming their faith in ways that decades of regular worship hadn't achieved. Churches across Texas held special services where attendees shared their September 12th stories, creating unexpected dialogues between those who had been inside and those who had prayed outside. Father Michael Therese, who had helped organize the peaceful protests, spoke at interfaith gatherings about the experience. "We came to that place with righteous certainty," he admitted. "We knew we were right, and they were wrong. But something happened that night that reminded all of us, inside and outside those walls, that mystery still exists in the world. Not everything fits into our neat categories of right and wrong." One protester, a woman named Jennifer Walsh who had knelt in prayer during the exact moment of the frozen flames, described feeling an overwhelming peace wash over her. "I wasn't seeing what happened inside, but I felt it. Something shifted in the universe at that moment. When people started coming out with those expressions on their faces, I knew immediately that God had been present there." The divisions that had seemed so stark before September 12th became more nuanced and complex in the aftermath. Support groups formed where people from both sides of the original controversy met to discuss their experiences. These conversations, often emotional and always respectful, created unexpected friendships between individuals who would have never spoken otherwise. Pop culture absorbed the event rapidly and thoroughly. Within weeks, major recording artists released songs referencing the frozen flames. A hip-hop track called 30 Seconds went platinum, exploring themes of time, miracles, and transformation. A country ballad titled "When Fire Stood Still" became a crossover hit, telling the story from a protester's perspective. Television shows incorporated the story into their plots across multiple genres. A crime drama featured a skeptical detective investigating claims of miracles. A science fiction series used it as evidence of parallel universe bleeding into reality. A teen drama explored how the event affected young people's faith and identity. The cultural penetration was total and unprecedented. A documentary filmmaker named Marcus Reynolds gained access to interview dozens of witnesses from all perspectives. His comprehensive examination, released 3 months after the event, ran nearly 4 hours and still felt incomplete. The film presented testimony from band members, audience members, protesters, police officers, and scientists, allowing each voice to speak without forcing a singular interpretation. Reynolds concluded his documentary with a statement that captured the ambiguity many felt. September 12, 2025, gave us a moment that refuses easy answers. Perhaps that's exactly what our certainty-obsessed culture needed, a reminder that mystery, wonder, and the unexplained still have a place in our world. Mental health professionals reported unprecedented surges in people seeking counseling to process their experience or their reaction to the widespread coverage. Therapists found themselves in unfamiliar territory, discussing miracles, mass psychology, and the nature of truth in contexts their training hadn't prepared them for. Professional conferences added special sessions on processing collective unexplained phenomena. Dr. Raymond Park, a trauma therapist in Austin, treated numerous attendees in the months following September 12. They're not experiencing trauma in the traditional sense, he explained. It's more like existential disorientation. They witnessed something that doesn't fit into their understanding of how reality works, and they're struggling to integrate that experience into their worldview. Some find it spiritually enriching. Others find it deeply unsettling. Many experience both simultaneously. Educational institutions incorporated the event into their curricula across surprising disciplines. Philosophy departments examined it through the lens of epistemology and the limits of human knowledge. Sociology professors used it as a case study in collective behavior and social movements. Film schools analyzed the convergence of media, live events, and viral documentation. The incident became a teaching tool across academic fields. As autumn turned to winter in 2025, the intensity of daily media coverage gradually decreased, but the mystery remained unsolved and unforgotten. The frozen flames of September 12 had become part of the cultural lexicon, referenced in casual conversation the way people mention other watershed moments. "Where were you when the flames froze?" became a common question that sparked deep conversations. Anniversary plans began forming almost immediately. Organizations from across the ideological spectrum announced intentions to commemorate September 12, 2026, in various ways. Religious groups planned prayer services. Scientific organizations scheduled symposiums. The venue owners considered hosting a memorial event bringing together everyone who had been present. Raven announced he would attend any anniversary commemoration, regardless of who organized it. "I don't own that moment," he said in a written statement. "It belongs to everyone who experienced it and everyone who's been affected by it. Whatever September 12th means to you, miracle, mystery, mass psychology, quantum anomaly, your interpretation is valid because we still don't have definitive answers." The band's former manager, speaking anonymously, revealed that multiple record labels had offered substantial contracts for Chaos Reign to reunite and tell their story through music. The band members unanimously declined every offer. "Some experiences aren't meant to be commodified or exploited," the manager explained. "They've all moved on to different chapters of their lives, carrying September 12th with them privately rather than performing it publicly." International perspectives on the event varied widely based on cultural contexts. European media tended towards scientific skepticism while remaining open to mystery. Asian outlets explored connections to philosophical traditions about the nature of reality. Middle Eastern coverage emphasized the theological implications. African journalists highlighted similar unexplained phenomena from their own cultural histories. The global conversation revealed how much interpretation depends on worldview. What September 12, 2025, ultimately proved was that some moments transcend the boundaries we construct between art and faith, science and spirituality, certainty and mystery. 3,000 people walked into a warehouse expecting controversy and walked out having witnessed something that would challenge their understanding of reality itself. The flames that froze that night burned far longer in collective memory than any fire could have, leaving an indelible mark on everyone who experienced that impossible moment when the laws of nature seemed to pause, and the entire crowd stood frozen in shared wonder. The legacy continues to unfold with each person who hears the story, watches the footage, or visits the preserved warehouse. September 12th became more than a date. It became a reminder that despite humanity's impressive knowledge and technological capability, mystery still exists. Some moments resist explanation, demanding instead that we sit with uncertainty, remain humble before the unknown, and stay open to possibilities that challenge everything we thought we understood about reality.